Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Bruce Monrad, Chairman and Portfolio Manager at Northeast Investors Trust. Bruce, it's great to see you again. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, we have a lot of ground to cover here. What do you make of the recent changes at the Fed? It's been a pretty interesting couple of weeks, to say the least.
Well, indeed, there was a little bit of a surprise, and it does mean that two hawkish members of the Federal Open Market Committee, or I should say the broader Fed environment, are gone. So, that's a surprise, and but they were wonderful bank presidents, but they're moving on.
What do you make about the debt ceiling issue?
Yeah, so that's very topical right now, and there was actually some back and forth just a little while ago between Chair Powell and Janet Yellen, Secretary of Treasury, and some senators. I tend to think that will work out, meaning the politicians will resolve it, and there won't be anything. There'll be brinksmanship, but I tend to think it will work out, and the markets seem to be predicting that. And there are multiple backstops, I think, to prevent a worst case thing from happening.
It's interesting, with the exception of today, September 28th, the market has really been taking a lot of this in stride. Do you think there's too much complacency out there at this point?
Yeah, it's certainly something, where there's tail risk. I mean, we certainly don't want this. I do tend to think, as I say, that the brinksmanship will, it will dissipate. And, I think the last time we had this, which was about a decade ago, and there was back and forth between Republicans and President Obama. I think there were some tells. I think the Treasury was gearing up to prioritize interest payments, which is the worst case for the financial markets, to prioritize that. So we'll keep our eye on what they're doing. Secretary of Treasury Yellen, and I think it was a New York Times op-ed, was studiously careful about talking about a debt default. So I think that they'll avoid the worst case.
Commodity prices have risen sharply. Brent oil touched over $80 today. Natural gas pricing has also soared. What are the inflation implications for investors and, of course, for consumers?
Yeah, that's the commodities have been very strong. And we tend, and as you mentioned, oil is touched over 80 on Brent oil today. So we think that that's going to be something to focus. Investors should focus on for their portfolios, for the bond portfolios, because inflation obviously would be a factor in what happens with interest rates and where the Fed goes. And then I think we all have to be on guard as consumers that maybe our heating bills, maybe our electric bills will go up. Maybe not tomorrow, but we have to watch that. We're probably already seeing in the stores what's going on with regard to our food pricing.
We certainly are. Bruce, if new legislation raises the tax rate on dividends, how does that have implications for dividend-paying stocks?
Yeah, I mean, as fixed income investors, we're always thinking about other forms of income. We're always trying to find the best way of providing income for our shareholders. And certainly, if tax rates on dividends went up, it's possible that corporations would try to find other ways of returning capital to their shareholders, and that could probably tilt towards buybacks as opposed to dividends, from where they are now.
So where are investors turning for yield at this point?
Yeah, yields are low. What we're doing here at Northeast is we are, we tend to think that the relative value of the short-term end of the high-yield bond market, the short end of the high-yield bond market, is an attractive spot. You get both the spreads, the extra risk, the extra yield over treasuries, and we're not taking too much interest rate risk. So that's where we're focused. We think that's a good relative value in the market at this moment. That's how we're approaching it.
All right, Bruce, great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.